Hi, my name is Jocelyn Bradbury. Today I'll be doing an informative speech about the Japanese culture. To start off, sometimes other cultures can be difficult or confusing to understand. I acknowledge that. Sometimes there's traditions that you don't know, traditions that you've only briefly heard of and don't understand, or traditions that they do in other countries that we don't do here in the US. Particularly, the Japanese culture can be hard to understand. Sometimes there's multiple layers that you have to really get through to understand the main tradition or concept. So this speech will just dive into properly educating you guys on the overall Japanese culture and how it might have changed over the years. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is a kimono. Kimonos are straight seamed garments that will be folded from left to right and secured in the middle with an obi, which is a sash essentially. They're traditional garments that really can be worn by anyone. Back in the day, this is something, for example, that has changed, but back in the day, based on what kind of kimono you had or the textiles that were on your kimono, you'd be placed into a certain social class or known to be in a certain social class. So the textiles that are shown on kimonos, they depict different motifs from the outside natural world. Some of these might include hollyhocks, cherry blossoms, wisterias. Another thing would be Japanese peonies. So this is what traditional Japanese peonies would look like. Really, today, it's only worn for special occasions. A kimono would be worn to a wedding, a festival, or even a funeral. There is a everyday kimono. It is called a hanaba obi. There's no special way to wear it, and it is kind of something just to wear around the house, but this is what one would look like. Mine has a dragon on the back. Next, since I brought up my peony tattoo, I want to talk about tattoos in Japan. So it was basically common knowledge in the past that people that had tattoos in Japan were probably Yakuza. So a Yakuza is a Japanese mobster or gangster. Typically, these mobsters or gangsters would get tattoos just because this was a sign of who they belonged to, mob or family-wise. For the longest time, there were places that actually had signs that said no tattooed people. So you weren't, if you had a tattoo like me, weren't allowed to go into a place of business. This was just because they were scared of mobsters being in their place of business. But something that has changed is just a couple weeks ago, it is now legal to have tattoos in Japan. Most cities, or all cities basically, have no more signs that would say no tattooed people. In the rural parts, there still might be, but I just thought that's always something interesting that people don't know about the Japanese culture. Next is, I just wanted to go over some respectful things to do if you were ever in a Japanese household. The first thing is not wearing shoes in the house. So this basically shows the person who owns the household that I respect your household and I don't want to dirty it, basically. So you were to walk in, there would be somewhere to put your shoes and change into house slippers to wear in the house. Another thing is if you were at a Japanese dinner table, it is actually impolite to talk while eating. This just shows that you're enjoying the meal. So if you were to talk while you were having a meal, it would be considered rude, I guess. Another quick thing I just wanted to say is traditional Japanese meals aren't like American meals. You don't get everything out all at once on one big plate. They actually bring out different dishes at different times to keep the food hot and so you can eat it while it's hot. And lastly, if you were in a Japanese household and you were eating at their dinner table, I just wanted to go over proper way to use chopsticks. There's no special way to hold, I guess, to hold chopsticks. But if you were eating and you were done with your meal, you would place your chopsticks like this. Or if you were grabbing something out of one of these said dishes, you would actually use the back of your chopsticks so that you wouldn't be spreading your germs. But if you were to go like this into your food, it's actually a sign of death. So don't do that in a Japanese household. You'll get yelled at. Finally, I just wanted to say that it's always good to expand your knowledge on other traditions and cultures, especially the Japanese culture I find very interesting, but I might be biased. But overall, there's just so much vast history of other cultures, and it's always just good to learn about different customs in case you just wanted to travel one day. But I hope you guys enjoyed my informative speech on the Japanese culture.